I'm Shelley Johnson. Welcome to another episode of the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live, where we feature the news, traffic, weather, information, and entertainment that commercial drivers need and want. You know, music is something that keeps us rolling down the road, and country music is especially great. Curtis Grimes is a great country musician. He's taken on the industry by storm with over 50 million digital streams, over 100,000 albums sold, 13 number one singles on the Texas Country Music Chart, and a number one song on the National Power Source Christian Country Music Chart. Curtis is definitely making waves. He's as versatile as his music, too. After a childhood playing baseball and earning a Division I scholarship as an all-state pitcher, he was given the opportunity to make a name for himself on the reality show The Voice in 2011. He finished as a top 8 finalist in season 1, and nothing has stopped him after that. In 2014, his hit single, Home to Me, was picked up by the Salon Supercuts, and that put him in the mainstream. The rest, they say, is history. He's popular with country music fans everywhere and a special favorite of our drivers. Curtis recently performed at the Guilty by Association Truck Show in Joplin, Missouri. Welcome, Curtis. I'm so honored to have you on my show.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and that was a pretty awesome experience to get to do that.
I know our listeners want to know how you like G-Bats. That was quite the turnout this year. It was a great truck show, and I know our station had a blast while we were there. What did you think of G-Bats?
It was pretty awesome, and the view was pretty incredible too. To see all the trucks lined up as far as you could see. Obviously, there was a lot of people. I always enjoy the family-friendly events. I'm married and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So every time we get to do something where there's kids running around and just, a good fun time for all ages is just really, really special to me these days.
Absolutely. They had quite the turnout. I want to say it was close to 1,000 drivers that showed up with their rigs.
It was. And then, of course, I don't know how many thousands of people that just came to hang out and enjoy the festivities. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was so needed. So many truck shows the past, since 2020 with the pandemic, so many truck shows had been canceled. So, I mean, this is exactly what the drivers needed to get together and see each other and have fun and bring their families. And they had all kinds of stuff like big rig burnouts. Oh, my goodness. I mean, just fun stuff. And a convoy into Joplin for Special Olympics. How cool was that?
That's pretty awesome. Actually, we do quite a bit with Special Olympics here in Texas. So have a special place in my heart for those athletes to begin with. So yeah, that's always cool when you see organizations helping other organizations and people out, especially when it comes to Special Olympics.
Absolutely. So everyone wants to know, who is Curtis Grimes?
Well, I guess we can start with I grew up playing baseball, and that's kind of what I still identify as, if we're being honest. That's what I did from as far back as I can remember, and got a scholarship to go over to Shreveport, Louisiana, my freshman year of school. And that's actually where I started dabbling with the guitar. My roommate had one there in the dorm room, and so I was just trying to strum along and actually play and sing the Texas country red dirt songs that I was listening to at that time, because this is really when that scene kind of started getting out there. Radio stations started playing some of them on the little Saturday night shows, and of course this is back when we would download stuff off the internet and burn CDs and pass them out to your friends. So that underground thing was kind of cool to me, and that's just the direction I went when I started trying to play guitar and write songs. I don't know, it was kind of cool to go through the process of, we always think we know what we're going to do when we grow up. We have a tendency to plan. I want to, be a Major League Baseball player when I grow up.
Oh, sure.
And oftentimes, God has a different plan and has a different door that he opens and closes the old one. So that's kind of how it was with the music. I just started messing around with it. Then baseball ended, and I just kind of started enjoying and diving into this new hobby, kind of this new passion. And that's what I kind of filled that baseball void with, for being honest. And then just things started happening. I was very blessed to win a contest to open for Kenny Chesney in 2008, which was like 2 or 3 years after I even started playing the guitar.
Wow.
And then 3 years after that, went through the process of the voice, and it just kind of went from there. And so you look back and you see that God kind of paved the way for this to be the avenue, not baseball, like I had imagined. And I don't know, I hit a point to where I really wanted to dive in and use it for His glory and honor. Because when you've been given this talent, this ability to do something, and then you have success in it, I kind of feel obligated to use that for God's kingdom, since that's where it all comes from, anyways, and that's really
Sure.
where our focus is these days.
That's so awesome. And it must have felt like a whirlwind when things started really rolling. Wow.
It did, especially for somebody that didn't grow up, singing in front of people in the entertainment environment.
Mhm.
A lot of these guys and girls, they want to be singers from the time they can walk, and so for me, that was a steep learning process, especially when things were happening so fast. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I still don't feel like that guy. I still don't feel like a singer, like a music artist. I don't
Mm.
know. I just kind of feel like, hey, I started doing this awesome hobby, and it turned into a job, and it turned into a career, and here we are. And I still feel like a baseball player.
That is
So
so
I don't know. It's
awesome.
pretty surreal. It's pretty surreal.
So, was country music always kind of your passion? Did you listen to that as a child, or what were your music influences?
I remember listening to the radio a lot and singing along, kind of in the truck with my dad, going and coming from baseball practice. And I liked Alan Jackson and George Strait and that 90s country sound.
Hmm.
And so, yes, to an extent, but not singing in front of people, not having a desire to do it. I just enjoyed Alan Jackson and George Strait songs. And then here we are, fast forward a few years, and I started appreciating the more traditional sounding stuff, the stuff that my grandparents were listening to that I thought was old timey music then.
Sure.
And now that's the stuff I really enjoy the most. Your Keith Whitleys and your Vern Gosdins and your George Jones, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's funny how that stuff comes full circle when you're exposed to it and introduced to it at such a young age.
It makes a huge difference. So, I find it amazing. You really hadn't pursued music until college, and then to just step out and do something so huge. Have you always had that kind of endurance and courage? How did that all evolve?
I think a lot of it comes from that athletic background. I
Hmm.
still have the athlete mindset, work hard, work ethic, competitive nature. So I think, and I was talking to my dad about this yesterday. It's like, I need a challenge. I need something that's going to challenge me. And then once I kind of feel like I've checked that off the list, I need another challenge. And I think that was kind of part of it too, was music was kind of outside of my realm, so it was just as much a challenge to succeed, and with people that this was all they did, as much as anything. And I still like go to the gym, run, work out. I still do all that stuff just to feel like an athlete.
Sure.
But I think that drive is really what kept me going. Because you know how the music industry is. You get these lucky breaks, and then there will just be a lull, and then you'll see people taking off, and you get frustrated, and you wonder why you haven't got that big break and all this
Sure.
stuff. But I think that just tenacity and unwillingness to give up or just quit that easy,
Yeah.
has really helped me sustain a career. Because I mean, crap, that was 2008 that I did that first big thing, and it's 21 now, so that's going on 13 years.
Yeah.
That's not too bad for somebody that wasn't just a quote unquote music person, to still be relevant in this cutthroat industry.
Oh man, especially with the internet where somebody's a star for what, 15 minutes and then on to the next.
That's right. That's right. But we kept
Absolutely.
that mindset from the beginning. Was I tried not to chase what was just cool and low hanging fruit, because I was more focused on the long term, on
Uh-huh.
the organic, making real fans, not just being flavor of the week. Because when you're 21, you're playing bars and honky tonk to a bunch of drunk college kids. Well, 10, 15 years after that, they're married with kids, so it's not the same environment, it's not the same appeal.
Right.
So I tried to go with the more wholesome, quality, longer lasting music and style that isn't going to, age myself. Because our music, you'll see little kids out bopping around to it,
Uh-huh.
all the way up through, folks in their 60s that appreciate it because we still have the traditional elements of country in there.
Right.
And I think that's part of the longevity of it all. Part of sustaining is not looking short sighted and thinking long term and really building your brand and focusing on a wholesome quality brand that will last, past the wild drunken college days.
It was very wise of you because, especially the past year and a half or so, I think people are turning back to their roots with all of the craziness with the pandemic and everything. People are really searching and having an organic sound and something that people can grasp and say, hey, this is what it used to be. There really is something that still is real and stable. So I think that was very wise of you.
And I think too the faith aspect. Everybody
Mhm.
puts their faith and hope in something, and if
Yeah.
you chase that road long enough, it's going to come back to God. I mean, that's the source, that's the beginning
Yeah.
and the end. And I think this past couple of years has really pushed people to that point, as far as seeking and just finding a bunch of dead end roads and coming to rest in God and Jesus. And I think that's kind of where we hope that everyone eventually comes to the conclusion of, if when they go through trials and tribulations. And so
Sure.
that's probably the main focus of my music now, and it hasn't always been that way. I'll give you kind of a short testimonial. I
Hmm.
grew up in the church, got saved when I was fairly young, pretty active in the youth group. And then when I started getting into high school and started going to the parties with my baseball buddies, and then going off into college, stopped going to church and didn't have my parents' accountability there, and just really fell off. And that's where I was when I got into the music industry, and just kind of that lifestyle and doing what I thought you did if you were a country music singer. And then I started having a lot of conviction for that, because, as I mentioned earlier, you've been given this talent which you didn't even really realize you had
Hmm.
until now. And then you have this platform and opportunity to reach and influence a lot of people, and kind of that question of what are you doing with it. And for me, that was kind of a tough pill to swallow, because I knew I wasn't using it like I feel like I should have, as a Christian. Very hypocritical, very. Not only was I not pointing people to Jesus or lifting them up, I was doing the opposite in a lot of ways. And so that too, that was kind of an eye-opening experience that really established what my purpose was of even doing this in the first place. And so I'm just thankful that we're able to stay relevant and still get radio play, and venues still book us. And I don't know, like you saw at the show, we always end every set with a couple worship songs, and just kind of
Hmm.
really make the point of our message and our focus to be Jesus, that
Sure.
ultimate source of hope and faith. And I don't know, I'm just thankful that we're able to do that, to be honest.
I would say you've been very fortuitous, and God's been your champion. Who, as a human, was your champion to say, "Hey, you got a voice here. You got some talent. Let's do it."
You know, Aaron Watson, another guy from Texas here, was really a big influence on me when it comes to incorporating my faith into my music career. Because he was kind of the first one that really went out on a ledge and started doing that in his shows, in the bars and honky tonks.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of appreciation and respect for him. Um, but then too, the people, the pastors, the just really good spiritual leaders and advisors, and just my family and friends, that really supported me kind of through the thick and thin, through the wild stuff, and never really, I guess, gave up on the fact that, 'cause some people pawn you off. I can't tell you, there are other instances. Can't tell you on one hand where people will, question your faith, question your, well, are you really saved? What's your, this is how you're living, this is what you're doing. And you feel
Sure.
that conviction.
Yeah.
But that can be, what's the word? That can be discouraging, make you start second guessing yourself. So I just appreciate all the people that didn't treat me that way, that believed in me and, prayed for me. And I don't know, there's too many of those to name. But I would say in the music realm, Aaron Watson was a big influence and just kind of guy that I really looked up to, that was strong in his faith in this environment.
That's awesome. Now you have a current hit here, Noah Built a Boat. This song has a great message and it's a classic country sound. How's it doing on the charts right now, and what inspired that song?
So I put a video out of a song that we end every set with is another song that I wrote called Born to Die. That's pretty much the gospel condensed down in a 3-minute song.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my songwriter buddies from Nashville saw it on Facebook or whatever. And he said, "Hey man, I wrote a song or I was working on a song with a guy that I think really fits kind of what you're doing these days with your music." And he sent it to me, and the chorus was awesome. It had that catchy, feel good tempo thing going. But they had the focus on more of like your goals and dreams or aspirations. And to me, I wanted it to be more about your calling, God's will for your life. And so we rewrote it kind of got in the word and really dug into what I got out of the Noah story, aside from, the children's version with the animals and the ark and all that stuff. But really the fact that everybody was against him, thought he was crazy, and he wasn't worried about that. He was more focused on what God wanted him to do. Right. And obviously that panned out really well, and it usually does. And so that's kind of what we wrapped the song around. And I don't know, it turned out pretty awesome in the fact that it's commercial enough to where people will listen to it. Yeah. But the underlying theme and message is faith-based and positive and uplifting, like we're trying to do these days. So it's always nice when you can get both elements, and because that kind of helps with appealing to the radio and the relevancy stuff.
Sure. And just think of all the people you're reaching. They may not be thinking about it at the time, but down the road they're like, I might look into this. That's great. Yeah.
Tell you you're a crazy fool. Dreams are something you wake up from and not pursue. When God opens the door, well, he'll lead you through. So take that leap of faith or you'll regret what you didn't do. Remember, Noah built a boat sitting in the sand, told everybody said, man, you've lost your mind this time. That thing ain't never gonna float. So let them call you crazy, maybe it's true, but there's nothing impossible to do with a little bit of faith and a whole lot of hope. Wasn't even supposed to rain when Noah built a boat. It won't be easy, that's a cold hard fact. It can spin you around, flip you upside down, leave you flat on your back. And when you think you can't, just hold your head up high until it rains for 40 days and 40 nights. Remember, Noah built a boat sitting in the sand, told everybody said, man, you've lost your mind this time. That thing ain't never gonna float. So let them call you crazy, maybe it's true, but there's nothing impossible to do with a little bit of faith and a whole lot of hope. Wasn't even supposed to rain when Noah built a boat. if you believe it's true, it starts with you. Noah built a boat sitting in the sand, told everybody said, man, you've lost your mind this time. That thing ain't never gonna float. So let them call you crazy, maybe it's true, but there's nothing impossible to do with a little bit of faith and a whole lot of hope. Wasn't even supposed to rain when Noah built a boat. Oh, Noah built a boat.
You also have another song called From Where I'm Standing. It's more of a mellow sound. I think it's kind of whimsical. It's an appreciative love song that gives thanks. That was kind of my interpretation. Why don't you chat a little bit about that? What inspired that song?
So a cool thing about that was that's the one I didn't write. I get on YouTube quite a bit just to, I don't know, consume music, listening to stuff that wasn't necessarily a radio single or just kind of the hidden gem kind of songs. And that one was a Thomas Rhett song that he was doing at an open mic night. And so I was digging around and he had never recorded it on a record. And I just thought it was a great song, you know, like instantly I was like, that's a hit. And so when we went in to record that next record, we reached out to all the people that you get permission from and stuff. And turns out he wasn't going to use it for anything. And so we wound up cutting it, and it turned out to be my biggest song to date. So I'm glad that we one, were able to, and two, that we did record it. But yeah, that was a random thing I just found on YouTube one day. That Thomas Rhett had written with Chris Jansen and another guy named Jaron Boyer. But I've never been the kind that said, you know, I have to write all my songs or I, you know, am not a songwriter. I feel like, you know, you record your best songs and you find the best. If there's stuff out there that's a song that you wish you would have written or sounds like something you would have written, that's just an undeniably great song, like you're selling yourself short as far as making the best album that you can at that period in your career, if you don't. And I kind of had that mindset from very early on that I'm not the best writer in the world. There's a lot of big guys out there that are better than me in songs that have never seen the light of day, that are hits. And so that was one of those, in my opinion, and it's turned out very well for us.
Very good choice.
She's leaning over the kitchen sink, stirring up sugar in my sweet iced tea, looking over her shoulder and back at me, just a grinning. Well, she's rocking my favorite button down. You can bet I got the best view in town. Well, she don't even know she's got my world a spinning. From where I'm standing, she's driving me crazy. Lord have mercy, what's this boy to do? She's got me thinking about wrapping my arms around her waist and dancing the night away. I love the way she's looking from where I'm standing. Conway song makes me wanna sing along. When she's a humming and swaying to the beat, and from where I'm standing, she's driving me crazy. Lord have mercy, What's this boy to do? She's got me thinking about wrapping my arms around her waist and dancing the night away. I love the way she's looking from where I'm standing. From where I'm standing, she's driving me crazy. Lord have mercy, what's this boy to do? She's got me thinking about wrapping my arms around her waist and dancing the night away. I love the way she's looking from where I'm standing. Oh, from where I'm standing.
You also have River Road Dream. That's kind of a toe tapper. I think our drivers can certainly identify with the song because it's about somebody who drives truck. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that song?
That is, and that's kind of what I had in mind. I wrote that with a guy named Trent Willman, who's just been an ambassador for my entire career. One of the best songwriters in Nashville. Probably more people are familiar with him as an artist from a few years back. But he's such a good writer, and that was another one of those blessing things. I had to co-write with him my first trip that I ever took to Nashville, and he wound up being the producer on every record I've done since, and just really was a mentor in the music industry for me. And so we were sitting down one day and trying to write an up-tempo song for the next project, and had that mindset of being on the road and just kind of the strain that comes with that, and kind of what's the ultimate goal, what's the end play with all this, what are you aspiring to do when this is all said and done, and what are you working for? And we were kind of talking about how I really enjoyed floating the river when I was in college, and I always thought it would be cool to have one of those little houses on the riverfront, so I could just go hop in anytime I wanted to. And we just got to brainstorming about other things that people, aspire to do or attain when it's all said and done. And just kind of developed into a song that did really well for us. It was the Texas Country Song of the Year that year. So just it wound up being a good one for us.
That's so very cool. And the drivers appreciate it. There are frontline workers. They really are. And they keep America rolling. I don't think a lot of people really appreciate that. If they weren't here, we would be in serious trouble. I mean, they really keep everything going. So that was
You're right.
a wonderful tribute to our drivers, and they all appreciate it, certainly.
Drives a truck working on pumps from Wimberley to Dallas. It's sure a lot of miles, but the pay outweighs the bad. Sarah takes shifts, saving her tips at the old 290 diner. Yeah, just to make her rent takes every last nickel they have. On a Saturday night, they'll take a little drive to town. Sip on a long neck, listen to the band, and two-step around. It don't seem like much, just a drop in the bucket, but their eyes are on a waterfront lawn with a cabin and a cedar wood swing. Right now things are rough, but the thing that keeps them going is knowing for long they're gonna have their own little old river road dream. now they can both see the heaven it's gonna be. Now it don't seem like much, just a drop in the bucket, but their eyes are on a waterfront lawn with a cabin and a cedar wood swing. Right now things are rough, but the thing that keeps them going is knowing for long they're gonna have their own little old river road dream. Hey! Now it don't seem like much, just a drop in the bucket, but their eyes are on a waterfront lawn with a cabin and a cedar wood swing. Right now things are rough, but the thing that keeps them going is knowing for long they're gonna have their own little old river road dream. Good luck and God willing, they're gonna have their own little old river road dream. River road dream.
I saw a chart the other day, and it said what what would happen if, and this was kind of piggybacking off of the Australian truckies talking about going on strike, and it was just things that would happen without truckers. And then in the first week, the second week, and the third week, and it is pretty incredible the how fast things would go downhill without them. And it's so you're right. Yeah. That's that kind of put it into perspective more so than, I mean, we realize everything you see comes in on trucks, but once you start realizing how deep that stuff goes and that everything's tied to it, it really opens your eyes. So you're right. Very thankful for all the men and women that keep this country going on the road.
I think a lot of people take things for granted, and the fact that you have all of the insight that you did at a young age, I think your faith has helped in that regard. But so many people go through life and they just, they don't think about it. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what just happened? And I think that's what happened last year. And that's where a lot of our drivers were finally being recognized again. And it needs to stay that way because, yes, if you've got something, it came by truck.
That's right.
It really
That's
did.
right.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your song, Born to Die. What inspired that?
So I would say probably a month or two after I kind of had a little come to Jesus meeting and realized that I needed to get my stuff together just in my personal life and in my walk with the Lord. The next trip I had to Nashville, had a ride with a guy named Lance Carpenter. And it's the first time I ever done this. Before we started the ride, I said, man, can we pray before we ride today? And he was very supportive of that. And so we did, and we wound up writing that song. And it kind of wound up being my theme song, if you will. And what I mean is that's what we end every set with. That's kind of what we try to bring the whole point of our show to conclude with is that's the ultimate, most important thing in life is understanding that reality that Jesus, made the ultimate sacrifice for our sin, and through him we have eternal life. And I didn't know it at the time. You write, every day's a writing day, and sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it winds up being a song like that you kind of build your whole show around, your whole theme of your music and message. And then that was the one that we sent out to Power Source, which is a more national chart, and had never done that before. Up until then, we had only done Texas radio stations.
Right.
So that really opened the door commercially in another way, and wound up doing really well for us. So that was another one of those blessings that really kind of was another step on the ladder outside of the the Texas region stuff that we had been doing.
Some folks are born to be shepherds. Some folks are born to be king. Some folks are born to be carpenters. Some are born to catch fish on a string. We all get the chance to do wonderful things with our lives, all because of what one man did for you and I. He could have fought back the soldiers that beat him. He could have left that cross in the street. He could have held back the arms that drove those nails in the palms of his hands and his feet. He could have walked right off that hill without blinking an eye, but he was born to die. Just a sinner, but through him we're all so much more. Even though he was born in a stable, he grew up to become our Lord. And he could have fought back the soldiers that beat him. He could have left that cross in the street. He could have held back the arms that drove those nails in the palms of his hands and his feet. He could have walked right off that hill without blinking an eye, but he was born to die. Could have fought back the soldiers that beat him. He could have left that cross in the street. He could have held back the arms that drove those nails in the palms of his hands and his feet. He could have walked right off that hill without blinking an eye. 3 days later he rose up and now he's alive. But Jesus was born to die. He was born to die.
You've been reaching a lot of people and you're God's messenger. This is awesome. And it's just kind of interesting. Like you said, you never really anticipated being a country singer and musician, but all of a sudden there it is. And I'm just amazed. You're reaching a lot of people, and this is so, it's got to feel so good.
It's a lot more rewarding than just doing whatever for selfish gain, than just doing it to have #1 songs or sell records or play shows or whatever. When it's an eternal reward, not just a temporary grab, that comes with music.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I mean, some people are, one-hit wonder and that's it. And that's so fleeting. And then they're left with, oh my gosh, what just happened? And their life can totally fall apart. And you've got this wonderful guidance, which is good. And you're reaching a lot of people and they're improving their lives. So, I mean, that's just a wonderful recipe, really.
That's the goal. That's the goal anyway.
So we've got a couple minutes here. I wanted you to be able to plug your music where people can find it. Where do people find Curtis Grimes songs?
Honestly, everywhere the digital stuff is consumed these days. Our website, curtisgrimes.com, is probably a good starting hub. Mm-hmm. But of course, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all of those places. And I always point people to our ministry website as well. And kind of through this process, started up a ministry called 10 Finger Ministry. And God just put on my heart to get a Bible into the hand of everyone that doesn't have one. Because I grew up in a pretty faith grounded household, but you don't realize a lot of people, they never had a Bible. Like, just, I mean, you have it on their phone, they have it wherever. And so we kind of dove in with that, and I think we've given out over 6,000 Bibles in the
Wow,
last few years.
that's awesome.
So 10 Finger Ministry, singular ministry, 10fingerministry.com, and you can request a Bible. And it's just a good hub to kind of see what's going on the ministry aspect of this.
That is so awesome. So, what do you say to aspiring musicians? There are actually a lot of truck drivers out there who are musicians. They're singer-songwriters. I've been amazed by that. What advice would you give them?
I always tell people the same advice: just do it, because early on, we're not all born just wailing guitar solos, but it takes hours and hours of practice just to get like that stuff down. I mean,
Sure.
I can relate to the amateur and the beginner, because I still feel like that guy, but it takes a long time before you just get to where you can strum a guitar and make solid chords, and then trying to play and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, that's another challenge. And then writing songs, and it's all you kind of get out what you put into it. And so just do it everywhere you get the chance to do an open mic night, or when you're at if you're really serious about doing it, when you're at Christmas with your family, pull it out and just play. Just get used to playing guitar and singing in front of people, wherever that is, because all of that stuff prepares you if you ever get into this. Because I was naturally introverted person. I was scared to death to talk in front of people, and I didn't even like walking into a basketball gym in high school and walking in front of people to go sit in the stands. Like, I wasn't that guy. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get in front of it, then the better you will be when that time comes, when you really get to dive into it down the line. And two, just, everybody says this, but not many people do it: be genuine and authentic. Don't chase whatever's selling this week, because it's going to change every time. And so once I really realized that and started applying it, then that's when the longevity aspect of it, that's when you really find out who you are and your sound and your style. And when you start, the quicker you can start honing in and focusing on that, then the quicker you find your brand and establish. It makes the writing process easier. It makes which songs you're going to record or try to sing or put out there to impress people or do your thing. And so those are the two things: to play as much as you can, and really dig into what's the point of doing this. Why are you writing songs? What are you trying to say? And really focus, and not just be, well, this person recorded or sang this song and it did really well for them, so I guess that's what we're supposed to do. And that just, it might work for that week, but it's definitely not a good long-term play. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you for that insight. That's super helpful. And I really appreciate you being on the show here, Curtis. You're a wonderful inspiration to country music fans and Christians alike. So thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me very much, and take care, and hopefully we can do this again down the road.
That sounds terrific. You've been listening to another episode of the Truckers Network radio show, and a great interview with country music and Christian music sensation Curtis Grimes. If you want to purchase his music, you can go to curtisgrimes.com. We'll also feature a link to Curtis's music on tncradio.live, so check it out there. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson, on the Truckers Network radio show. Stay tuned for more right here on tncradio.live. Thank you for listening to another great interview on tncradio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.